Japan is a beautiful, harmonious place to visit, and if you are a foreigner, consider going there. Just know that there is a lot of unspoken and kind of hidden rules that you might not know about, and it can be pretty bad and awkward and even embarrassing to break them. As somebody that did break a couple hours in Japan, I would love to share with you 10 rules of things not to do as a foreigner in Japan. Let's get into it. The first tip I'm going to give you is all about the tip, and it is to not tip if you're in a restaurant. I know, especially being from the States where a lot of people live off their tips and wages of that sort, it feels sacrilege not to be able to give someone like extra money for great service. And in Japan, there is just a plethora of amazing service across all types of restaurants, but it is not in policy. It is not normal in Japan. So do not leave behind extra cash, or they might just chase you down and give it back to you. Tip number 2, don't jaywalk. There's a lot of busy areas in Japan, but there's also a lot of not very busy areas, especially when it comes to traffic via cars. I honestly, especially in even bigger cities, was astounded by the lack of vehicles that I saw in comparison to like foot traffic or bike traffic. But that being said, even if there's a traffic light and it says not to walk and there's no cars, don't walk. It's just a common thing. It's respecting the customs and the culture, and you'll notice nobody else jaywalks. At least I didn't see anybody doing it. And yeah, I don't know what perception you would get if you did jaywalk. I don't know if you would just be considered like a total like rule breaker or a badass or what the deal is, but I say it's best just not to do it. Tip number 3, do not eat while walking or on the trains. Now, this is just simply because it's kind of viewed as a gross thing, and I've heard a lot of back and forth of like, there's some areas where it's not that big a deal, and there's some areas where it's a really big deal. I don't know if maybe that's because it's like an older custom and maybe nowadays it's like not as frowned upon. But again, as the person visiting a country, I always think it's best to try and respect the rules and to not not draw attention to yourself in a bad way. And I think it's kind of about leaving a trail of crumbs or like backing up traffic, like foot wise, walking around wise. That's always a really, really bad thing, especially in Japan where it's one of the cleanest places on earth. So yeah, don't even walk. I know it's going to be hard not to, but just don't do it. Tip number 4, don't pick the flowers. So this is one I actually didn't know anything about, and luckily I'm not someone that usually goes out and picks flowers, just not really my jam. So I was able to avoid doing that, but it is viewed as rude or disrespectful. So yeah, avoid picking flowers. It's pretty simple. I think it's easy. I believe in you. Tip number 5, don't point fingers in Japan. So I know in a lot of places it's very normal to just be like, hey, look over there, or look at that, or like look at yourself. But I advise you, just it's very rude in Japan to do that, from what I've been told. Instead, kind of gesture with your whole hand, like, oh, hey, what about that? Oh, hey there, like, look at this, look at yourself, you got something on your face, just pick this up. It's a lot easier and it's considered much more polite. Tip number 6, be careful of where you're taking photos. So there will be a lot of signs in places you don't expect where cameras and taking photos aren't allowed. I found that when I went to Akihabara, that in some of the arcades, you can't take photos, you can't take any type of video, so just kind of be mindful of your surroundings. Which is a good tip in itself, but like just kind of if you're about to consider taking a photo or some videos, just look around. The signs are pretty like obvious. You'll see them right away. Just again, just be respectful of everything around you. Tip number 7, shared plate etiquette. So there will be shared plates you'll get at restaurants, and they will come with extra sets of utensils. That's not like a mess up on the restaurant's part. That just means that you're supposed to use those and not your personal chopsticks to like reach over and grab it and take it to your plate. That's considered bad manners in a lot of restaurants in Japan. So use those utensils that are provided with the shared plate to be consuming it from the shared plate. Don't be like taking your personal chopsticks and reaching all over and bringing them back. Tip number 8, don't leave food behind. So I know this is going to be another one of those things that in a lot of countries it's really normal to like get takeout or like get a box to take the rest of your food, but just like don't leave food behind. Finish your meals. It's viewed as disrespectful if you don't, and kind of like it can be like in a disregard for the people that prepared the meal. And again, I know it can feel like very unnatural if you're from a place where that's just kind of a normal deal, or where you can be like more like constructive about the food of a restaurant. But in Japan, that's not so much the thing. So just buckle up and try to finish that whole meal there, Buttercup. Tip number 9, don't be loud at night. This should be pretty easy to accomplish, but a lot of the walls in some of the apartment buildings or even houses in Japan can be very thin, and it is a very peaceful place. You'll notice in some neighborhoods, even just right outside of major cities, it is like, I swear, like just like dead silent. Like you would hear like a needle drop there. So be mindful of your volume at all times at night. Don't, walk around with like a super loud luggage or make loud noises or play loud music. That's gonna be very, very disturbing to many people. Last but not least, tip number 10, do not disrespect sacred places. So temples and shrines are viewed as very peaceful places that people will practice a lot of very calming practices and techniques. So be sure you're not going there being loud. Just like expect that you shouldn't go around touching stuff, or and even something that you might not think about is don't wear revealing clothing there. That's again viewed as kind of disrespectful. So go to shrines and temples kind of with the mindset that you're just going there to be at peace, take some time to yourself, be in your own head, and just take in the sights around you. Well, there you have it. There are 10 tips of things you should not do your first time to Japan as a tourist or a foreigner. I really hope they help you out. Let me know in the comments if there's anything I missed or something I should be aware of. Like this video if you love Japan. Subscribe if you just like hearing things from me. I am Alex, and I will catch you next time, you lovely people, okay?
Bye.